welcome to another episode of Musical Movements podcast. My name is Kiyani Patel.
And I'm Bhav Patel.
We recently got married in November last year and booked one of our suppliers to Musical Movements. So really excited to be on the podcast today.
How did we meet?
How did we meet? Let's start there. Okay, so we met at university through a mutual friend. So we both went to Coventry Uni, but at different times. So there's a 4-year age gap, I think. Did you graduate the year I joined? Is that right?
Yeah, so I graduated the year you joined, and we had a mutual friend who knew me throughout the entire time I was at university, and then
it was actually a funny story. So I met her Freshers Week, like in the bathroom as girls do, and we got chatting, exchanged numbers, and I saved myself on her phone as Kiyani Patel. And she was like, "Oh, I've got another friend whose surname is Patel. You're going to marry him one day." And being 18, I was like, "Oh, cool, that sounds great. Perfect, can't wait." Skip forward a few months. I think she said, shared my number.
She did, yeah. She was messaging me really randomly saying I've met another Patel, and
yeah,
there's lots of Patels. Thankfully, we're not related. And yeah, so we had each other's numbers for a little while, and I don't think I messaged you initially.
Not for months.
months.
I waited for months.
Yeah, because I think you were actually seeing someone at the time. And then just decided to pluck up the courage and message you one day, and then ended up texting for a long time before we actually went on our first date, and then met up. And
do you remember our first date?
Yeah,
TGI Fridays.
TGI Fridays.
With Jack Daniel's chicken.
Yeah, a classic.
And then 7 years later, 4 years later, we got engaged. Corona happened, and then 7 years later, here we are.
Who proposed and how? So that was all me. It was kind of my job. I feel like it was anyway. So we had been speaking about. I suppose when relationships get serious and we kind of know that we're supposed to be together forever, kind of thing, then you have that conversation of proposals and engagement rings and the type of ring that you wanted. And I always wanted to pick your wedding ring and do all of that myself. So we had those conversations, so I knew what kind of ring that you wanted or the style. So we did that day where we figured all that stuff out.
The Hatton Garden trip.
Yeah, we did. And I initially asked your mum for permission.
You did.
And one of your sisters was there, so that was fun and intense and a bit awkward. And I also wanted them to be involved in the ring buying process as well. So I got them involved, and we planned out a day. It was actually on your birthday. It happened on, I think you had a party.
My birthday weekend. One of my sisters said she couldn't make my birthday party.
Yeah. And
I was really annoyed at her. And I didn't realise at the time, but she was actually ring shopping with you and my mum.
So you were actually in London that day, and I snuck into London with them, went into Hatton Gardens and went ring shopping with them.
Yeah. And the actual proposal, so we went to New York over my birthday in May, and everybody said, "Bhav's going to propose, get ready, you're going to come back with a ring on your finger." And I was kind of hoping, I was like, "Oh, that's exciting," but I was also like, I kind of hope he doesn't, because I feel like a lot of people get engaged in New York, and it was a bit cliche, and I had it in my head, so I didn't really want it. And you didn't. And no. I didn't really, I was like, "Oh, cool." I was 23 or something, so I didn't really mind. And then we had this date in the diary for months, and it was meant to be a work weekend. So we were going away with your directors, your two business partners. And it was
so I'm a surprise kind of person. I like to do surprises, and I wanted it to be a little bit out of the blue. So I'd planned this trip with my work colleagues, where we basically go on a spa weekend, all of us, and we go all out and have lots of treatments and drink a lot and that kind of thing and that kind of vibe. And I told Kiyani this is exactly what we were doing, and I got all of them involved. So I got them to message her and say, we're going on this big weekend, and
so in my head it
talk
was
about spa treatments.
Date in the diary, and the other girls were messaging. They're like, "What are you gonna wear? We're gonna get a massage. You're getting a manicure." And we were all talking about it. So I genuinely thought it was like a work weekend with 6 of us. And then even on the way there, I remember Steve, your colleague, called you. And he's like, "Oh, we're running late. We're going to be late for lunch, so just go to the bar and have a drink."
This was all part of my
all part of the plan. It was really, really convincing. And then we got there, and you proposed in a suite, and it was really, really lovely. But it was so convincing that after you proposed, I remember I was crying and everything, and then I said "Oh, I need to redo my makeup because the guys are going to come and we're going to go for lunch." And you were like, "They're not coming.
They're not coming.
It's not actually a work thing. It's actually for us."
Yeah. So we had a nice day to ourselves where we still did the spa treatments and had our own.
And it was at Sockbar House in St Albans.
Nice evening together.
So it was a nice venue.
So that was pretty much the gist of the proposal.
A big surprise.
Yeah, and then we had all the family together afterwards for the next day, where they got to celebrate that moment.
It was
with us.
Wimbledon final weekend.
It was.
Because we got the moe with the Wimbledon sleeve, do you remember?
Yes.
The little tennis ball, which we haven't opened yet. Probably
Nope.
won't. Yeah, no, it was a lovely memory. So then that was July 2019.
Yeah.
And we planned the wedding for November 2020. So gave ourselves about 18 months to plan, which I think is probably about a reasonable amount of time. We kind of got the ball rolling straight away. So started straight away with venues. We felt like that was like the biggest thing to tick and like sort of solidify.
It's hard not to just get started, isn't it?
Yeah,
as soon as you get
excited,
engaged, you get excited, and you start researching suppliers and venues and how much everything's going to cost and all of that, and then you kind of just get straight into it, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, planned for November 2020. Obviously, got delayed by a year, but we were really lucky with getting delayed because we literally did a straight pushback, didn't we? It was the same weekend that we wanted just a whole year back.
Yeah.
And I think out of around 11 suppliers, we managed to get 10 across or something.
Mm-hmm.
So we were really lucky. But in an ideal world, probably would have had 18 months to plan, but ended up with a bit longer.
We did.
A bit longer than we planned. But we did the civil in between, so it wasn't like we didn't do anything. We had, had a bit of time in between.
We did.
So I ended up getting married in November 2021. Venue hunting was interesting, wasn't it? That took a long time.
We saw quite a lot of venues actually. So
close to 20.
To be honest, we were a bit unsure of the exact location that would work well for us, and we did some stuff in central London, and then after a while ruled that out just because of the families trying to get into London and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We had it in our heads that we wanted somewhere which had hotel rooms internally in the venue, so then it became a hotel.
Yeah, for like a typical Indian wedding, if you have the Indian wedding in the morning and then reception in the evening, you want that downtime space. I think you actually said you wanted a swimming pool as well. I don't think that was a high criteria point on my list, but that was quite important to you. But yeah, just a hotel we wanted. Our list was around 300 people, but we didn't want a 300 person capacity venue because we thought it would be a bit snug. So we tried to go for like 350, 400 capacity.
Yeah.
We ended up booking Crown Plaza Hotel in Gerrard's Cross.
Yeah.
But it was almost the Crown Plaza in Marlow. We just liked the hotel, the chain.
Yeah. It became a bit of a process of elimination when we went through them. You go to another venue and you say, oh, okay, so we like this about this venue, but...
And we had spreadsheets.
A
lot of spreadsheets.
And there was lots of pros and cons. There was certain venues with different cut-off points for the evening, and some that we weren't allowed to fire, so that ruled that out completely.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting thing. Well, that's something we didn't think about actually, because also when we inquired, we would say, oh, it's for a Hindu wedding ceremony and then a reception. So we would just assume that they would have had them before, or they might know, or they had preferred suppliers that were like Asian wedding suppliers.
Yeah.
But actually, it was probably like 3 or 4 that came back to us and said an open fire was like a straight up no.
Yeah.
Which was Crown Plaza Marlow, which is why we said no to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Crown Plaza, Gerrard's Cross is where we booked, and it ticked all our boxes. It was fantastic. It had like an event space, it had parking, it had a pool, it had all the things that you wanted. So.
And it was well located for all of our families as well, which just helped.
Yeah, no, it was really good. So I think the venue was the first thing we booked, wasn't it? We wanted to kind of like cement that, and then other suppliers we had. So we had like family weddings, but they were all pretty much like around 10 years ago. So I feel like the industry had changed quite a lot, and there were new ones that we hadn't heard of. So we did a bit of like asking around and making a bit of like a list of recommended suppliers.
Yeah. We just had this huge list of all the suppliers that were really important to us. So we wanted to tick those off first, like a core 5 or 6 that we just thought, right, those are the things that we need to get right. And then the rest around that will sort of follow. And
anything big, so something like the photographer, the priest, the videographer, where we knew we'd both be around them throughout the day, we did together because we wanted to both meet them, both feel comfortable. But then there were certain things like, I think, for example, you handled like the communication with the caterers. I did like the cake lady, the hotel rooms. So we sort of divided and conquered a bit as well.
Yeah, I think when you've got so many moving parts, so many things to manage, you have to separate. You have to sort of project manage your own area sort of thing, and then lean on other people for a bit of help every now and then as well.
I do remember this was like peak COVID, so it was like lockdown. We weren't living together in 2020, and we'd have a Sunday night call. Do you remember those?
Yes.
And I was really militant about it.
I remember our 8 p.m. Sunday night calls.
Yeah, for like 2 hours, and it was honestly like I'd sent an agenda over WhatsApp to you before, and we'd go through each supplier, like where are we up to, what's the latest conversation, have we paid a deposit, like just everything we needed, and we had spreadsheets with different tabs as well. I personally think there's no other way to do it than use a spreadsheet.
Yeah, so Kiyani's a spreadsheet person.
Yeah. I think most brides, or like most people that plan big events, not necessarily a spreadsheet, but you need some sort of like, you know, like physical thing to write things down, whether it's a notebook or I don't know. But it just felt like, especially when you're doing it, not, you know, we didn't live together, we couldn't see each other, so we had to do stuff virtually. It was actually a Google spreadsheet because we both edited it at the same time. Do you remember?
Yeah, it did work. There were occasional times where we were both supposed to be working, and I could see on the Google spreadsheet Kiyani's in there, and I'm in there messaging each other saying, no, we need to stop and actually start working now again.
Yeah, we did that a lot. And stuff like guest lists and things, they change all the time. So yeah, I think anything that you can like edit and have multiple people edit. Not too many people. I think we did give permission to our mums at one point, and we were like, no, take it back.
There's that whole case of too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, which is inevitable with weddings.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the big suppliers we booked based on recommendations, and actually even just because, again, it was during lockdown, so it was a lot of Zoom calls with people. You can kind of instantly tell if you've got rapport with someone, or you know, you're paying them a big chunk of money, but also they're going to be around a lot, you know, on the most important day of your life. So someone like the photographer, like you have to get along with them, otherwise.
Yeah. Well, I think we had slightly different processes for how we were looking for suppliers, or how we were going through that process. So as in, I think my process was to write a blanket email to say, this is us, this is our wedding date, this is what we want, and then I'd send it to like 10 people, and then if 4 or 5 came back to me, then I'd do a bit of research on them, a bit more, and then go from there.
And what was my approach? What did you say?
I think yours was quite heavily on recommendations.
Yeah.
I think you would speak to a lot of friends who have been to weddings recently, or you know, ask around and ask people a bit more, and then go, right, that's the person, or that.
But quite often, did you find like you'd inquire to supply it, and then I'd come back and be like, oh, so and so mentioned them actually, so they're a good one. It would kind of validate like what you'd found. So I think our process was quite smooth. There weren't any that we didn't agree on either. I think quite instantly.
No, not at all.
So I think for photographers, we went to visit quite a few at their houses. I remember we did a day in like northwest London. We drove around. Yeah. And we pretty much came out. I mean, we're quite on the same page anyway, but we pretty much came out of each one like instant yes or instant maybe, or you know, like we ruled out the same people.
Couple of instant no's.
Few instant no's, but again, that was just like rapport, like, you know, just thinking like, do I want them around all day, in everyone's face, like they're going to be integrating with your family, they're going to be talking to people, and you gotta gel, otherwise it won't work. But yeah, we booked everyone that we've booked. I think we've said, looking back, there's like 90% of our suppliers that we would instantly say we'll book them again for another family wedding if it's like our siblings or something. Wouldn't even like bother doing the research because we were just so happy with some of them. Musical Movements being one of them. But like our priest and our photographer and our videographer, like all of them are fantastic. There are a couple that we wouldn't necessarily recommend.
No.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think anyone did a bad job. It's just some people leave you with a better sort of feeling afterwards.
Yeah. I think for me, the ones that spring out that I wouldn't recommend again, and there are about 2 or 3, I think, are the ones that ask for more money on the day or the day before. And when I say more money, this is like in addition to the quote, you know, like extras have popped up or something like that. And I understand it happens, and I understand that it's been a really tough ride for suppliers, but I just think on the day or the day before your wedding, like your emotional state is quite high, and I just don't think it's the right time to ask. And obviously in that moment, you're just going to pay it, you know, you're just going to like do what you need to do to keep the suppliers happy and get through the day. But looking back at it, I think it was a bit cheeky, and we had it on a few occasions, and we've kind of been warned that happens.
Yes, you do get warned about it from other people.
Great. So our first dance song.
Yeah, it was to be honest, because
we could not agree for ages.
We could not agree.
I wanted Taylor Swift Lover.
Yeah,
you vetoed that straight away.
I just couldn't do it. You got to a point where you were trying to convince me so much, you started dancing with your
I choreographed something to it. Yeah,
basically
we practiced.
Saying like, this would look great. Like it's really.
I'd play it in the kitchen every day, wouldn't I?
Couldn't see it, couldn't do it. And we've got our songs. We've got our songs that we've had through our first dating.
So funny enough, the song that I thought we were going to choose is actually Codaline, the one, but you proposed to that song.
I did.
And my mum was like, "Oh, you've got to do it. Like it's your song. It's really lovely." But I thought we'd already had a moment with it, and I didn't really. And like our moment, like the proposal was lovely and it was in the background, but I just felt like that song's special for that moment. Let's pick a different song.
Yeah, I think depending on how long you've been with someone as well, you have these different moments where you have different songs that end up in situations or you know different times where you go, oh, that's a song,
a
with
memory.
a memory, and it's got a memory attached to it, but it's a nice memory. So Codaline, the one, was our song when we first started dating, and then I proposed to it, but then it became that memory.
Yeah,
So we didn't really want to reuse it.
But we got lucky with our first dance song. So because of the COVID situation, we had our civil wedding at the end of 2020, literally 3 days before Christmas. And Bab's brother gifted us an original song, didn't he?
So my brother is in music and has been in music for a long time, and
very talented.
He sings and writes his own music as well. And he wrote us a song, and it was it's a really, really, really nice song. It's called
From This Day On, and it was really like, it wasn't anything like personal in terms of like lyrically, like it's a beautiful, beautiful song, but obviously it was personal because it was written for us. And we heard it for the civil, so that was in the December, and then we got married the following November, and then we kept it a secret from everybody. But we decided quite quickly, like, okay, we're going to use it. When we told DJ Stray as well, he was like, oh, thank God, an original song, because he just probably hears the same ones over and over. And then we choreographed our own thing to it, but in secret, so we didn't tell anybody. And only DJ Stray knew on the night. I don't think anybody else knew apart from us three, wasn't it, in the room?
I think so, yeah, because he gave us a little trial attempt at...
He did, yeah, he let us practice on the dance floor.
Just literally 5 minutes before.
Necessary.
Which was necessary. But
if you can, do that. If you can practice your first dance in the room or in the outfits, do it, because we didn't. And my lenga in the evening was much heavier than anything I'd rehearsed in.
About 10 kilos heavier.
Okay, not 10 kilos. It wasn't. I mean, imagine wearing it, okay, if you think it's 10 kilos. But it was a bit heavier, and there were a couple of moves that, like, they were just different because I was heavier because I was wearing this big outfit. So, and even just the spatial awareness, like we'd practice in our flat, and we had like one room that we keep practicing in it. So obviously when you're doing this dance for months and months and months, you get used to like, oh, I'm going to be looking at the sofa at this point, or I'll like flick my leg out towards the kitchen or whatever. But doing it in the room was a game changer. And actually we were so nervous, weren't we? I remember we went through it like 3 or 4 times before. But the moment was when Bab's brother realised we used his song, and he ugly cried.
He really ugly cried.
Like mouth open, eyes streaming.
We've got our video now of us, and it's her first dance, and then him in the background,
sobbing on your dad's shoulder,
crying on my dad's shoulder, which is a nice memory, I suppose, in a lot of ways. But yeah, him writing us that song kind of made the decision for us. Because as soon as we heard it, we thought
we couldn't not. It was beautiful. It's beautiful. Really nice. And then he actually did in his speech. He sang. I can't remember who sings it.
Hey Brother.
Yeah, Hey Brother. But who was it? Is it Avicii?
I think yes.
Yeah, so that became like another song for the wedding as well. So he had a piano set up, and he did a little rendition of that, which is we changed the lyrics up, and
a
gospel choir as well. Yeah, it's a big surprise. Yeah, the music stuff's his forte, isn't it? So
it is,
blew us away with that. But yeah, it was a perfect first dance song for us, I think. And the fact that like Vinesh did a song as part of his speech was quite interesting as well, because we really thought about the speeches and the dance when we were trying to plan out the running order for the reception, hadn't we?
So we wanted to make sure that there was enough gaps for certain things for us to go around to tables.
That was something that was really important. I said to you, I've been to a wedding before where you don't even see the bride and groom, and you get it, like they're really busy. But I said to Bab, I want to spend at least 30 seconds realistically, like it isn't very long at all, but I wanted to go to every single table. Like
say hi.
Yeah, in practice it sounds like a good idea. In theory, by the time you go around the tables, half of them are at the bar. So there's like 2 people at the table. So you actually don't end up seeing
we had a photo booth as well. So every time we go to a table, half the table were missing,
gone,
which helped in a way, because then you could actually have a one-on-one conversation with someone for 30 seconds.
So, but when we were planning out the running order, then we took advice again from DJ Shrey, because again, like unless you planned a wedding, it's hard to know. All you can go off is like your guest experience.
It was a few. So it was DJ Shrey who also advised on that, and then Laguna, the caterers, so they had a bit of this is generally how we'd want to serve the food.
Your whole evening is led by when the starter, main, dessert comes out, right? So they're the main. That's the most important thing, that you feed everybody. Then you add in like the bar, and then for us, like we had a photo booth that when you finished at 10 p.m, so we had to factor in time for them to take, pictures and stuff. But I think
we knew we wanted at least 2 hours.
What we wanted to do as well. So we can only go really from our guest experience. But again, like not having had weddings for a couple of years, it's kind of hard to remember what you liked, what you didn't like. But what we thought was best is we had a starter canapé reception. Then we called them like entertainment. So my sisters did a dance, and we had like 3 or 4 speeches. So each like we do like a food course, entertainment, a food course, entertainment, food course, dancing.
Yeah.
So we ended with your speech, which is just a given, because then you can invite me to do the first dance. It just makes sense, and then you can go into dancing, which worked really well.
Yeah.
And we sort of did like my sisters dance when everybody came in, because everyone was like really excited and happy, and then also they were like, get it out of the way. Like the first thing we want to do is the dance.
To be first,
because they didn't want to have a drink before, but they had like 1 drink before, but they're like, we just can't until we've done. And then we obviously eating and stuff. So we did that, and then we had your dad's speech. So we sort of timed it like the dance is really good, and I didn't know this at the time, but they had like friends come in and surprise them. My like aunts and my mum came in. It was really good and high energy. And then we sort of like brought the pace back down with your dad's speech, which was a bit more serious and full of thank yous and really like heartwarming. So we kind of planned the running order based on like the vibe we wanted the room to go in. So we wanted to like hype people up and then chill out because mains were coming.
Yeah, it worked out well as well, because you'd have the speech and the dance, and then you'd have a little gap and people would just talk about those moments and, you know, reflect on that a little bit, and then you'd go on to the next one after the next course as well.
The advice I would give though, if I was going to rethink this, because we made this decision but only the week of the wedding, was to be quite strategic about when you have your bar open, because you've got to think like people will just rush to the bar, and actually there are certain times if you've got a speech going on or you've got a dance going on that you don't want everybody just to run away. So we had to like rethink when we closed our bar. And it was actually one of my cousins who got married a few years ago that he called in the week, and we went together in the week, and I remember calling you being like, oh, we need to shift things around a bit. But it was good advice that he gave, that basically you don't want to open the bar when dancing starts, because you want people to be dancing, not queuing up for drinks, and you're going to create a traffic. So we shut the bar when speeches and dances and the entertainment things, as I said, happened. But then during dinner being served, dessert being served, it was open, so you can create that natural flow of traffic, which worked really well in that sense. But then, as I said, like when we went onto the tables, didn't work because it meant people weren't at the tables and wanted to say hi. But you know what? You can't get it all. Like I think we did pretty well, given there's only two of us, and it's quite hard to go around the whole room and speak to everybody.
Exactly.
But yeah, I would sort of say think about like the pace of the evening, whether you want people to be like hyped up or not,
and how much time you want for everything. Over account a little bit for speeches. I told my brother and my dad they've got 5 minutes for their speeches. Yeah. My brother's ended up being about 15.
Yeah.
My dad's about 10, which is fine.
But then my sister's was like 2.
Yeah.
So you can make the time back sometimes as well. So I think that's quite important. And the other thing is just to make sure that like if you've got stuff like our photo booth guy was going at 10, like so for us like the DJ became like the master of ceremonies, I guess. Once the like catering staff go, we sort of relied on him to give announcements and coordinate the room and stuff. So we got him to make the announcement about the photo booth shutting in like 15 minutes, but then actually it just meant everyone ran out for a bit. So just like think about things like that. Like if you've got certain time limits and you need to encourage people to go to certain places at certain times, it's really hard to do, and it doesn't happen on your own. Like it takes a village. And we honestly had like an amazing group, didn't we? We had like family members, suppliers, everyone was sort of just, you have like a core team of people that have the spreadsheet, the printed out spreadsheet with highlighted pages, but they can sort of help be a bit fluid and get people where
we gave people the opportunity, responsibility to get involved in certain ways. So I'd give one uncle, the responsibility of going and checking that the mains are going to be served on time and just giving them a 5-minute warning.
Actually, that's another good bit of advice. Laguna were amazing, like catering companies are really good generally, but they will run late. So I think it's good, and not to have the bride or groom or even the bride's like siblings or parents, like someone that's like close family but not like involved in other stuff, just to keep an eye, because you can't rely on them. If you can say to them serve the mains at 8:30, but it'll probably be like 8:45, 8:50 by the time they come out, unless you've got someone not putting pressure but just like keeping an eye. And I think if the food runs late, everything runs late, so that's probably a really key thing to try and stay on top of, but not you yourself. I think delegate as much as you can. That's another bit of advice: delegate on the day, give it to other people, give other people responsibility. I think that's quite important.
Definitely
can't do it all as much as you tried to.
Experience with the DJs was really good actually. So it was just smooth. Everything was smooth about the process. I think
our wedding wasn't very big in terms of people. Like I've definitely been to weddings
it was intimate.
Yeah, much larger. We still had like 220, 230 people for the evening, but I think it didn't feel very big, because I think like DJ Shrey helped control the room in the sense that people listened to him. He was like, he's obviously experienced, right? He's done it a lot before. He knows sort of when to get people where and like what he needs to say to people to get them where they need to be.
That was probably our biggest surprise, wasn't it? How good of a master of ceremonies he was. I was just
you don't think DJs would play that role. You just associate them with music. You don't think that they're going to be the one to say like, can everyone take a seat? The speech is happening or dessert's happening. But actually, he had the most authority in the room. Like if we needed something to be like mass heard quickly, we would go to him. Not that we even had to be honest, because he was pretty on the ball. Like he just read the room well. So I think that would be the biggest surprise, that like we knew he was going to be great at music stuff. We knew he was going to smash it because we'd heard stuff before. Like we trusted him. But I think the extra stuff that he brought, which was just controlling the evening, making sure we ran to time, even silly things like I think someone dropped a debit card and he had to like announce for someone to come and get it. Like little things like that it's not a hiccup on the day. Like he just was really smooth and chill with it, and it just made everything really helpful, I think.
Yeah, I think he said the direct debit card belongs to Mr. Patel.
Mrs. Patel was,
Mrs.
yes,
Patel,
it wasn't very helpful in the room, but he was like, be quick, it's contactless. It's quite funny. I think that made our wedding video, that bit as well.
It did,
which is
yeah.
quite good.
Yeah.
But I would honestly say 10 out of 10, like easily. Like DJ Shrey 10 out of 10, but also he was a representation of musical movements, which I think was like great, you know.
Well, even before, so we had the gap where he had to set up, or the team had to set up, and they were getting involved where they could, trying to help out with stuff like the dance floor, even though that wasn't their responsibility. That was the responsibility of the venue, and getting involved in that kind of thing and just helping out a bit more. And in a quite a high stress sort of environment.
So when we were planning, we had this moment, because we did, obviously the wedding got postponed and we did the civil, and we had this moment that was like, we're married now, we've done the legal ceremony, do we want to go through with the big Indian wedding? Do we want to like spend the money? And you know, we're trying to buy a house and all of that at the same time. But actually we quickly realised that it wasn't just for us.
No, we'd missed so much over that 18, I'm sure everyone knows, I don't need to bang on about COVID, but I think everyone had missed so much, and it wasn't just the weddings.
No, we said this. It was people had boubabies, people had bought houses, they graduated. There was all this stuff that was like worth celebrating.
And we even had big birthdays that we missed out on.
Yeah,
Loads, like my brother had his 30th, and we had quite a few other big birthdays in the family. And
so we
close
decided
families.
that basically we were like, okay, obviously the wedding day is for us and it's like our wedding, but equally for the reception and for the party, it's so nice that we can just do this one big, really fun, really good celebration for us and the fact that we're married, but just to have everybody together, people that have missed out on celebrating stuff. So the party for us was more, well, like most of the wedding, but it's more for everybody else than it was for us. And it was really important.
It was a celebration of getting everyone together.
Yeah.
Everyone in one room who knows each other, loves each other, wanted to see each other and hadn't for such a long time.
So there was a lot of
getting that together.
I wouldn't say like pressure, but there was a lot of like importance for us on the actual party side of things. So the reception was like, there was some stuff that we were like, we want to have like an open bar or paid for bar. We want to like give people a really good time because people have just missed out on so much. So again, that's why like the music was really important to us, and we spent a bit of time like making sure we got what we wanted with it. But I would say it was the best one I've ever been to be honest, and I'm not particularly biased. Like honestly, I don't know whether that's because it had been so long or just like every song that was played, like people knew there was someone singing along, there was someone dancing. The dance floor was packed the whole time. The one thing we actually said was, if we were going to do it again, we'd scrap the head table and get a bigger dance floor because we needed it, didn't we? Everyone was spilling out.
Yeah, I mean, we had a dance floor, but there was the dance floor and then there was
like
the sides on the side, and everyone was there and everyone was getting involved. And,
we even did, I said to my sister, I don't want to do like the whole like Indian wedding, like conga line. But then the song came on and then went, bend it like Beckham, and it all started happening, and you just kind of go with it. I think the party was like, it was like the best bit, really, wasn't it? It was really good.
Even things like the cocktail reception, I think, because, like I said, because a lot of people hadn't seen each other for a long time, it was so important to have those moments because people could talk and socialise, and that, I think they got it done. But you get the intros and the catch-ups part done, so then they can enjoy that, have that, but then we have our speeches, do all of that, and then you've got the dance floor, and then everyone wants to go on the dance floor.
And it was packed the whole time, wasn't
it? It didn't end. And that 2 hours, 20 minutes or so, it just went in a flash.
Yeah, it really did.
It
really did. I think it was 10 out of 10. But even now, we still get people talking about it to us, don't we?
We do.
We had someone commented a few weeks ago and said it was about DJ Shrey, wasn't it?
Yeah, they said, where'd you get your DJ from? We definitely want to book him for
And she's an English girl.
Yeah,
so she absolutely loved him. But she did say it was the best like dancing and reception party she'd been to, which is obviously a compliment to us, but it was just nice that we could like host that and put that on for people that felt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is one of the reasons that we'd recommend musical movements because 100% hands down, like DJ Shrey was responsible for the energy on the dance floor, the people on the dance floor, everyone having a smile on their face and drink in their hand.
Yeah, we've sort of said there's what 4 or 5 suppliers we go 100% hands down. We would
like I said to my
them in a
sisters,
heartbeat.
you won't even need to look into these ones because you're using them.
There's a reason we're doing this podcast, not we're here to slag them off. They obviously did a very good job, and it was the whole process from start to finish. The consultation call
from the beginning,
initially with Nanesh to going through that and him explaining how it works, what sort of package you should get. I think to be fair, even he actually recommended we downgrade one of the packages because I said, oh, what about this?
Oh, then
and
it was a bit smaller.
And he said, oh, you don't need that for this venue, and even just stuff
so just
like
honesty, wasn't it? Honesty, integrity, and also like even now, like I follow all the DJs on Instagram, and they're always putting stuff on stories, and every time I'm like, I want to be at that wedding, I want to be at that party. Like it's just fun. Like it looks fun. They clearly know what they're doing and have got like skilled and experienced DJs that know how to create a vibe and a party and an atmosphere, which is really what you want.
Yeah.
You know? But I think the biggest reason I would recommend Musical Movements as a supplier, from our experience, is the communication and just the ease of like booking and talking. Like if we had questions, both Nainish and DJ Shrey were really approachable. Not that we had many questions, but like it wasn't like, you know, not necessarily like all of them, but there were a couple of other suppliers that we did feel like you're bugging them a little bit if you're like trying to iron out small details. And I appreciate from their side they've probably got like 30 couples that all want the same thing or the same amount of attention, but it didn't feel like we were a hassle. You know, we were treated like respectfully up until we left, really. Like, you know, it was just really smooth and
they didn't undo it, they didn't overdo it. We had communication throughout. We had the consultation call initially with Nainish, then we booked it in, and that was that done. And then we had the call with Shrey just before, about 3 weeks before the actual event, where he ironed out everything, asked us about our taste of music, our first dance songs, all of that, all of the songs we wanted to get involved, and that was really good and relaxing. And then on the day, I think I saw them probably about an hour before, 2 hours before the actual reception kicked off, and just good and calm throughout that whole process.
It's also nice to not have to like babysit suppliers. You know, like you have some suppliers that are like, oh, can someone come and meet me at this time, and then they need to bring me this, and I need help with this trestle table, and and like I totally understand like some suppliers do need that, but it is just extra things on the day that like when it gets to the day you've delegated. So my sisters and my cousins and stuff, they were doing everything, but you're still in the back of your head like, oh, I hope someone's not forgotten to go and meet so and so, or like give that cash to so and so, or whatever. And it just like Musical Movements weren't like that. DJ wasn't like that. A couple of suppliers weren't, but it was like a hassle-free one that you're just like, they can just get on with it. You know, we've like done what we need to do. They do their bit now, and it's like out of our hands.
That's the other thing as well. So there's a couple of DJs that we were recommended that we had conversations with where you can book the DJ and then you supply some of the equipment. And that was a bit of a headache. Whereas if this is just, I read the whole package through, and it was just an all-inclusive. This is what you get. We'll sort it out.
And you pick those as well, though, right? Because like weddings are expensive, it's no secret. So there's certain things that like your budget might not stretch to, but I think you pick on the day like which things you can do. So for example, like centerpieces, like I did myself because my family are quite creative. I quite enjoyed it, and that saved us like a few £100, which means we could spend more on like, you know, not having to worry about technical stuff that's not our forte or we're not good at. So I'd say like think about like what your skill sets are. Like if you've got someone in the family that's good at something, or you know can help with something on the day, then like lean into that. Like, you know, delegate stuff to people, but equally sometimes you just got to understand that it's not your forte, and you know they know what they're doing and just trust them to do it, which I think we did for Musical Movements, and it paid off for us, and I'll do it again, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about what tips we'd give to new bride and grooms. So I'm assuming people planning a wedding.
Yes.
3 doesn't seem like enough. But the one that jumps to mind is I would say don't be afraid to ask for help and delegate on the day. Don't think you can do everything yourself.
100% delegate on the day.
There's even so much beforehand, you know, like there's certain things that we'd let people do before. And I can understand, like, I wouldn't say I was like a bridesmaid or anything like that by any means, but there were certain things that I had a vision and I wanted to take control of, but actually there's only one of you, and there's a lot to do. So on the day, even if it's something as simple as like we talked about earlier, like telling somebody to tell the caterers to make sure they're on time, or just like getting the wedding post boxes and putting them in their room, like little things like that you can get other people to help with, and people love it, you know, like even if it's like, you know, someone who's not really like a distant relative that's not really involved in the wedding, but you give them a job, it makes them feel important, it makes them feel helpful, it helps you out. So really, you know, delegate, and don't be afraid to delegate. People are willing to help, people want to help. So yeah, definitely number 1 tip would be delegate.
Yeah, so mine would be the suppliers. So whoever you book, depending on what their job is, allow them to do it. So don't just sit back and just...
So delegate to your suppliers.
Well, yeah, delegate to your suppliers. I mean, they are specialists effectively in what they do. So, I mean, you can give them a sense of direction and make sure that they're on it with your timings and make them aware of exactly how you want it. But on the day, they're there to do what they're there to do.
But also, to expand on that a bit, I think, like, listen to the advice from suppliers as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, chances are you've not planned a wedding before, and probably not going to do it again, but these people have been at weddings every single weekend, probably 2, 3, 4. They really know what they're talking about. So if you've got like questions around like running order or like length of speeches or seating plan arrangements or little things like that, like don't dismiss advice or, you know, like opinions from suppliers. I mean, obviously you take it with a pinch of salt and you do what you want to do and what works best for your setup and your family and all the rest of it. But, you know, don't be afraid to lean on them because they really do. There's lots of
things you'll end up questioning. So, like for example, our photographer, if he'd ask us to get into a weird pose or, you know, stand behind something that looks horrific and you just don't understand why.
Go with it. Yeah,
go with it because
he knows what he's doing.
likelihood he's going to create something that is pretty good and pretty special. So just go with it.
So delegate to other people, trust your suppliers and let them do what they're good at. What would you say is the third bit of advice? I think I would say don't sweat the small stuff on the day.
You can't really. You're not going to enjoy it if you start sweating every little detail because.
Like for example, our cake was not what we expected it to be. It actually was really far from what we expected it to be. So the first time we saw it was when we walked in and did our entrance. Yeah. And on the day we were both smiling.
Just keep smiling.
I was like, that's not the cake that we wanted. But you know, what can you do at that point? Cut the cake and eat it. Like it's too far gone.
You start kicking up a fuss at that moment in time then.
I mean, I was never going to kick up a fuss when I walked into the whole reception.
No, I know,
but even stuff like, you know, the cocktail recipes were like, didn't use the garnishes. Do you remember we ended up with all these lemons and limes and mint after we had to take it all home because they didn't use them? And it's like annoying because before that you're like making sure you're getting the garnishes and like doing all of that and like getting it organised. But on the day, what can you do? You know, did people not have a drink because there wasn't a bit of lime on it? No, they didn't. So I think enjoy it, embrace it, lean into it. It's a really wild day. It will go like that. It's good fun, but also an out-of-body experience because you just don't feel like you're there. But just don't worry. If anything is like stressing you out or worrying you on the day, delegate it or let it go or look the other way because it's too special a day and it's too short a day.
It's too short a day
to worry about anything. Yeah. And things will go wrong. As like we had suppliers on the day ask us for more money. Just do what you got to do, you know, to get it out of mind and keep your peace on the day because it's too special to ruin, I think.
Yeah. So I think we probably have a couple of memories that really do stick with us on the day. See, my big one is when DJ Shrey played "Can't Hold Us" Macklemore, which means nothing to us as a song at all.
Didn't then.
Didn't at the time, but it was just one of those moments where
I think you were on someone's shoulders.
I got up, two people picked me up, two people picked you up. We had this kind of like euphoric moment where everyone's dancing, everyone's really on it, and you're just looking down. You can see everyone. It was like I was a drone looking down on my entire crowd.
Every single person that you've ever loved or has ever touched your life in one room, and that will never happen again, ever. You know, it's like your uni friends and work friends and family, and you just don't get that mix of people again, and it's just overwhelming. It's such a special thing.
I think we were at that point as well where we'd done our speeches, we'd done our dance, we had a drink, but you for the first time in about 2 months as well. So we ate for the first time in about 2 months as well.
2 years more like,
So the diet ended, but it was just that big release of pressure and stress, and also to know we've done the day. We're about an hour away from this finishing.
You've got to enjoy it.
Let's just really just like let loose.
Memory that I would say sticks out is we had a few surprises. So my sisters did a dance. I knew my sisters were doing a dance, but they had some of my friends join. They had my little cousins join, and my mum and my massie and mammies and my aunts joined as well. And I did not know that was happening. So that was like amazing. And then also your brother had a surprise gospel choir.
I mean, he did a surprise song, we
should have guessed that.
We saw the keyboard come out about half an hour before, so we were like, right, he's going to perform something. But then a gospel choir came out, and we were like, wow.
So the memories are lovely, and that kind of taps back into what I was saying about like you can't control every aspect of it, so don't try to, because it's a lovely thing. People will try and do little things for you on the day and surprise you. And you know, in my head, I was a bit like, this is taking a lot longer than the itinerary says, and everything's going to push back. But you can't think like that. You've just got to enjoy it and realise that it's not just about you; it's about everybody else. Everyone else wants to celebrate and have fun as well. So
exactly,
yeah, a few big memories. But I think the memorable things are just the fact that everyone is together, and it won't happen again. And it didn't happen before in that at that scale. So it's really special.
Yeah.
So back to musical movements, I guess the reason that we're here. If you were gonna describe musical movements in 3 words, what would you use?
Well, it's really difficult actually. I'd say exciting, They
Yeah?
just had they just had a vibe. They just had a. In fact, no, I changed that. Energy. They just had.
I'd say energy, that's
Yeah,
what
they
I
just
think
had this feel about them, and it was a completely different vibe to all the other suppliers who were there throughout
Because the fun part,
Hindu
isn't
wedding
it?
day.
Like,
Yeah,
you've
it's
got
the
to
fun
get the
part.
priest, you've got to get
It
the
is the fun
videographer.
part.
They're all fun and lovely as well, but yeah, this part is the bit that's like, it's the fun part.
Yeah. I'd also say weirdly organised, just because of that whole.
Why so weirdly?
As in, like, you just not what you'd expect. You don't think, oh, with this DJ, if anything, DJs could have a little bit of a reputation to be a bit too
Go with
laid
the
back and a
flow
bit
and-
go with
okay.
the flow and it'll all work out sort of thing. Whereas actually,
They didn't have that.
yeah, especially leading up to the part where we got to the dancing part at the end of the night, that whole process before. I mean, it's a good 2 hours where
Yeah.
you've got speeches and catering coming in, and photo booth going in and out, and the bar being open and closing and that kind of thing, and just. It was almost like they were an
Efficient,
event
yeah.
planner for the reception,
Yeah.
even though they weren't supposed to be. They just became that,
Yeah.
and that was quite special.
A word I would use is honest as well. I think that from our experience talking to lots of suppliers, we didn't get everybody, the ones we booked, in the end, but the ones we inquired to, like, they weren't all upfront about things.
Yeah.
Maybe not even actually some on the day, like touch on extra costs and stuff, but I think
Yeah.
the fact that you mentioned earlier that, like, the venue we had, it wasn't the biggest venue ever, our guest list wasn't the biggest guest list ever, so the fact that we were, like, advised by Nanesh to actually downsize our package because it wasn't quite right for the venue, like, he could have just been like, yeah, book it and I'll charge you, extra, and it will be too big for what we needed, but he was honest about it, which is, appreciated. Honest, it's amazing.
I mean, don't get us wrong. I think there's probably about 100 different positive words that you can come to mind when we're talking about it.
But honest is important for suppliers. Energy is super important for a DJ. I would definitely use the word fun as well if I'm describing musical movements overall, just from all the other stuff that they do, as well as weddings and events, and they do like the cocktail stuff and the Mr. and Mrs. experience, stuff like that. So I think it's not just like they're
especially
a pre-wedding
now,
supplier and that's it. Like, there's stuff you can do.
If anything, we discovered all of that after the wedding, and we thought, oh, it'd been great if we knew about the podcast beforehand.
It wasn't there before, but
No.
this is a vital resource, I think, for brides and grooms.
Yeah.
We would definitely we did listen to similar stuff about organising events and things like that before.
Yeah. We
but to have
follow
specific...
them all on Instagram now as well, and things like that. So
Look
you're actually
out for,
more
what
invested.
Events they're at.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of looking forward to the next wedding where hopefully they'll be the supply for that as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So our words are what? Honest, energetic, and fun.
I'll do it.